Welcome to the Embodied Revolution Show with your host, Lora Coleman, founder of Embodied Revolution. This is a safe space to connect, grow, and rise into your highest embodiment with authentic identity. Twice a month, we dive deep into inspiring conversations, grounded strategies, and real-life stories from women making bold moves aligned with their soul's purpose. So get ready for wisdom you can live, mindsets that transform, and the evidence that you too can rise stronger, wiser, and more in tune with your purpose. This is more than a show, it's a movement. Welcome to the Embodied Revolution. Hey everybody, welcome back to Embodied Revolution. I have with me Lora, and I love that name, by the way. She is a speaker and a coach who motivates women to make gutsy moves. So Lora, can you tell us a little bit about what is your programs? What is your main platform that you really help women on?
So main platform that I help people on, there's a couple of different things. So my three primary ways that I support women are I have a mastermind called Line, which is for ambitious women that are ready to do the thing. I have a community of women that are building their skills and their confidence and learning how to retrust themselves. That's called the Gutsy Collective. And then I offer one-on-one coaching as well. So okay. There's a couple of different containers in which I support women. And of course, there's the Gutsy podcast, which is if you just need a little swift kick in the mental ass in your ear on your daily commute or as you're walking and working out. It's a really good place just to get in your head, help to reframe some things so that you can make those bold moves you can't stop thinking about.
Yeah, and I did look up the podcast and I saw that you interview other women on there as well, right? So if anybody wants to interview on your show, we're going to drop all the links, of course, whenever we post this. So in your opinion, what does it take to be gutsy in a way that is actually going to make an impact on, the industry?
On the industry or on the individual? Because I'm looking at the individual.
The individual, because if that's your brand, if that's what you want to target on. So what does it take to be gutsy in a way that's going to make an impact? Yeah, for the person's life.
Yeah, because when an individual is gutsy, then that impact ripples into organizations, into industries, into the changes that are needed in this world. So what it takes to be gutsy, honestly, first is radical self-awareness. We've got to get to know ourselves again, who we are, what we actually want, our beliefs, our habits, our tendencies. We have to really start to get to know each other, ourselves from the get-go again. We've gotten very muted. We've gotten very numbed. And we've gotten very used to doing what everyone else expects us and tells us that we should do. And we've completely forgotten that we can have an opinion too. So that's first and foremost. The next one is learning how to trust yourself again. Yeah. Most of the women that I work with have a hard time trusting themselves in the beginning. And it's because they've been taught to go outside of themselves for answers. They've been taught to get validation through other people and circumstances and situations. And our body is a compass. It is always guiding us, but we don't listen. We don't stop long enough to listen. So being willing to pause and listen and ask yourself, get to know the cues of what does a yes and what does a no look and feel like in your body. Because when we trust ourselves, then the next thing that I think is really important in being gutsy is being willing to move. And not just busy work, not just, this fake sense of productivity, but what are the moves that matter? What are the things that I really need to do? What are the things that I've been avoiding and filling my time with all this other gunk that just distracts me and, oh, I'm too tired. No, I don't have time. And okay, you've been tinkering around in something for how many hours or how many days? What's the real move that you've been avoiding? A conversation that you have to have, a decision that you need to make. What is the thing that's going to actually move this? And that thing doesn't need to be huge. That's a common misconception with being gutsy is it always has to be this big thing. Yeah. When in fact the big moves only happen because of the small moves.
Yeah. So, and I feel like you're saying a lot, everything you said, I totally agree with because my brand is all about making big moves. I don't call it gutsy, because I've just never thought of that. But it's like making bigger, bolder moves. So I feel like everything you just said is like so many other things like that could be dived into, right? Like so many other layers. Like I heard like intuition, basically, like women aren't listening to their intuition or they're not trusting it. It's human design, kind of like it's limiting beliefs, right? So kind of with how, women, why do you feel like women don't make those gutsy moves? Like most of the women that you've worked with, what does it really come down to? Like as far as like kind of like one thing that we could talk about right now, what do you feel like it comes down to?
The thing that's coming up first and foremost is other people.
Mm,
People pleasing, making sure everyone else has what they need. A lot of the women that I work with are like the go-to women in their circles, and whether that's in their job or in their business or in their home life, in their friend circles, they're the what might everyone consider the strong one, right? The go-to
yeah.
person, the one that knows how to fix everything, and the one that you can go to talk to. And so they've just become something for everyone, and
Mm,
they unintentionally put their own needs on the back burner. And
yeah.
so people pleasing and making sure that everyone else's needs are taken care of often comes to the front of the line because they want to be liked. They want to be accepted. They want to feel loved. They want to be part of something. And unfortunately, sometimes that comes out in, you know, overexerting yourself and committing to way too many things and just completely
Burnout.
burnout is a huge one. And then
Yeah.
just completely dismissing the things that you really want to do until a couple years go by and you realize, oh, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah. And do you feel like women almost, a lot of these women, they already know what they want to do.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they've been knowing what they want to do, but there's something that's like burying it, or like you said, they're putting it aside, they're procrastinating it, and they're not moving on what they know they want to do because of, what would you say it's excuses or would you say it's something else?
Well, a lot of times it's perceived safety,
Yeah.
meaning like they want something new, but that requires them to do new things, which makes them get out of their comfort zone. And
Yeah.
so we go back to the things that we know, even though it's not what they want anymore. And deep down, they really do know what they want, or at least have a direction. Getting
Hmm.
that thing requires you to do something new. It
Right,
forces
exactly.
you to get uncomfortable. It takes you out of your safety net.
Yeah.
And again, that comes back to like, how is this going to affect other people? And what is everyone else going to say and think? And I don't know what I'm doing. And other people are further along than me. I mean, we could write a book on all the things
It's
we say to
scary.
ourselves.
Yeah, it's
But
definitely scary.
yeah, but it's they often know what they want, but a big part of that is some of them will say they don't, and that there's some truth to that sometimes. But the reality is, if I own and decide what I want, that means that I have to take the action that follows it.
Yeah.
That gets very uncomfy very quickly. But I will remind anybody that's listening right now, it's also incredibly uncomfortable to be continuing to do the things that you don't want to do, to be stuck in
Yeah.
something, to be settling for something that you know is not yours anymore, maybe never was in the first.
Yeah.
That's a perpetual, ongoing discomfort.
Yeah. Mhm.
Doing something new, trying something new, making a move, that's a temporary discomfort that ultimately leads you to the thing that you want.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you said too. If you have self-belief, if you really have like, to me, confidence comes from self-belief. That is what a confident person is. It's the person who knows they can fall back on themselves. They have their own back. So it really comes from like believing that you can do it and going back to the root of like, okay, so if I do fear these things, why do I fear it? Where did the fear start? What is like the actual underlying issue of why I'm not going to that bold move? Right? Because I work a lot with like bold moves and like that's what I put gutsy with. It's like bold moves, like in my mind. So what would you say is like the gutsiest thing that you have done, or like what were the pivotal like gutsy things that you did of like where you were before to now? Like if you could pick like three gutsy things like
I
that you've done in the your journey.
I know exactly which 3 to share with you. One of
Okay.
the first gutsy move that I made was so my background is in branding. I spent
Okay.
20 plus years in the branding world. I'm no longer in there. We'll get to that. Um,
Oh, yeah.
my very first job out of college was designing ads for the phone book. So I designed ads
Okay.
in the yellow pages. It was just as exciting as it sounds.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't
Not
want to do that
Gutsy.
anymore. No, not my thing, but an important stepping stone.
Yeah.
The first gutsy move that I made was quitting that job when I was 6.5 months pregnant to start my branding agency. So I realized that I didn't want to do that. When I told my boss that I was expecting, it was met with disappointment. And I was like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. I can figure it out. So I quit my job. Maybe it was hormones, maybe it was gutsy, maybe that was when it was all born. But I started my business when I was still pregnant with my son, and he just turned 18. So
Okay.
it's been a wild journey. The next gutsy move was then selling that agency. So I ran the agency for 16 years. I was able to grow it. We had a lot of great success. We had a lot of great challenges. I loved it until I didn't. And I decided one day, like, this is not for me anymore. I don't love this work anymore. I did everything that I wanted to and then some. There's nothing left here for me. And I think that's an important thing for women to hear, is that it's okay to change your mind and it's okay to be done. And so I came up to a pivot where I was like, okay, what do I actually want? I want to speak. I want to coach women. I want to write books. I want to grow my podcast. But I wasn't able to do those things to the depth that I knew that I was capable, because the agency was just taking up so much of my time and energy. So I decided to sell my agency in summer of 2023. And by that Christmas, it was sold. So very big gutsy move. Completely left the industry. So I don't do design at all anymore. The third gutsy move came very shortly after that. We also owned a commercial building at that time that we were going to build out as a co-working space and a networking space and a place where you could host events. And I mean, it was beautiful. We had renderings done, the whole 9 yards. It was all but ready to start construction. And in this whole kind of awakening that I was experiencing, I was like, I don't want to do that either. Like, I love this idea. I love the look of it, but it felt heavy to me. It felt like a burden. It felt financially like, how am I ever going to get, break even, let alone make money? How am I going to run this place? I'm going to have to get employees. I don't want to have employees. I don't like that. I figured that out a long time ago. Like, it was just going to be another version of the agency. It was just going to take me away from the thing that I really wanted to do, which was to speak, coach, write books, and to run my podcast. So 2 months after the agency sold, we sold the building as well. So I got rid of everything. Anything that wasn't aligned, anything that didn't match my vision and what I really, really wanted to do in this season of my life, it had to go. So it went.
Yeah. So like really like an important takeaway that I get from that is like the act of releasing, the act of actually releasing what you worked for, what you thought you wanted, to move on to bigger things. And did you know, like at those times, like, did you kind of have like an inner sense of knowing that everything was going to work out? Or were you kind of like, were there times of like freaking out of like, oh my God, like, like I feel like that's what I go through. I like, I've gotten really good at recalibrating my fear, but there are times that I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? But then I still do it anyway. So like,
yeah.
Like, did you always have that sense of knowing, or is it something that grew over time?
A little bit of both, to be honest with you. Like, I think I had an inner knowing. Like, I was very clear about the direction I wanted to head in. And I think that that's an important thing to have, is like, even if you don't know exactly what you want, do you have a sense of what you want? And if not, get to know what you don't want, because that's just as important. That's a good spot. So if you're like, I'm not really sure, I'm kind of back, start with that. So, but I had a sense, right? I could see myself on stages. I could see the rooms of women supporting, like I could visualize it. I had done a lot of energy work to connect with that. And so I just knew, but it doesn't mean that I don't second guess it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a human too. And there were moments, especially like the first 18 months, I started all over again. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in an established business. It was a well-oiled machine. Like, my reputation was out there. clients were coming to me, I got to the kind of the easy part of it, except I didn't love it anymore. So it wasn't easy at all. So when I left it, I was like, I'm literally starting from scratch again. I mean, this time I'm bringing 16 years. I'm bringing 16 years worth of experience with me this time. So I'm not really starting all over, but on paper, I'm a brand new business. So I spent the first 18 months figuring it out, who I am, who am I in this space? What do I actually want? What do these offers look like? What feels good? What feels bad? And there's absolutely been moments where I'm like, is this actually going to work? But I always find that's not my intuition. Like when you start second guessing yourself, that's not your intuition. That's not your heart and soul. That's your mind playing tricks on you. And so when you can turn off the brain even just for a second and tap back into the body, it's like that. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's that self-belief you were talking about. That's that confidence where you're just like, even when things get wobbly, I know I can rely back on myself.
Yeah, which really comes to conviction as well. Like for me, it's like I tell people you have to do it in a way of it is going to work because you're going to make it. Like you've already decided. So for people who are watching this that they may be you're very experienced, and I like that you've been through all of these things because it shows you've walked through that fire already, right? So you can lead someone there because you've already been through all of these things. You're living proof of, being gutsy can build your higher life, right? Your higher identity. So what would you say for someone who's watching this or will watch it? And how would you answer, what makes you, do you feel different from the other women who are also, saying to make bigger moves, of course, me being one, what makes you different, even as far as if it's your methods or your strategies? What is the kind of person that really would be drawn to you?
Love that question. A couple of things here. First, I'm like a swift kick in the mental ass, followed by the best hug you'll ever have. So, the women that love working with me, they want it straight.
Yeah.
They don't want smoke blowing up their ass. They don't want all the fluff. They don't need all the this and all of that. It's just help me just get to the core. I'm just ready to do it. Can we just do the thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you like straight talk, if you don't like farting around, if you want to just get to it and you want somebody to call you out when you start going down that slippery slope, I'm your gal. Okay. So it's tough love wrapped up in the most sincere, deep support. Okay.
Right.
The other thing is I'm incredibly intuitive. So I can feel your energy before you even say a word. I can usually pinpoint your block by a couple of questions and just sensing your energy and seeing what's going around. It is not uncommon for us to find and remove a block in a single session because I go very deep very quickly. So that's a big part of the work that I do. And then the other one is I'm just very practical. It just doesn't need to be complicated. It already feels complicated, but I'm not going to make it complicated. Do you know what I mean? So it's taking all the pieces, it's taking all the stuff that's in your mind and okay, let's make sense of it. Let's get a focus and let's get a plan. And that's really as simple as it gets to be. So, I've been called business therapist. I'm not a therapist. I don't claim to be by any means. Somebody just so you kind of feel for my style. People have said I'm kind of like a business therapist. I give big sister energies. I am the oldest daughter, so there's that. But just incredibly deep support with no bullshit.
Yeah. So that authentic piece really and sometimes that is the best thing because if it's not realistic, if it's not honest, then it's not going to grow you to your highest potential.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you kind of put that out there for anyone who wants to work with you. So I have I guess a strange question. If you can think about it, it's just what would you say is the weirdest, oddest advice that you've given a client? That's one of those things that's okay, this sounds crazy or weird, but it just works. Is there anything that was just weird, but it was no, women do need to hear this?
I told a client one time to go out in her backyard and sling paint and scream her face off.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Not very.
I'll do that right now.
not very conventional, but she is an artist. She
Mm.
had a lot of pent up emotions from a situation that she was navigating. She was feeling creatively stifled. She had a lot of anger that was
Mm.
kind of building up. And I was like, girl, we got to move this shit out of your body. So I want you to go in the
Yeah.
backyard. She has, all kinds of stuff. It's not uncommon for her to paint in the yard and stuff like that. So I was like, I want you to go in your
Yeah.
backyard. I want you to sling some paint around and I want you to scream your face off. And she was like, I feel so much better. Like
Okay.
we hold and carry so much
Yeah.
stuff and we feel like we have to be strong, especially when we are the strong ones.
Mhm.
Emotion and vulnerability is a weakness. It's bullshit. No,
Yeah.
your emotions come up because they're ready to be released. And where they become a
Mhm.
problem is when we store them. Then that gets
Mhm.
down into the fibers of our body. It gets into the nooks and crannies of our mind. We've got to be okay letting it go, or at
Yes.
least learn how to let it go. And in a safe place, it can work magic. So she felt a million times better and she was able to move past her block.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you said that because that is so true that a lot of women, it's like they push away their feelings, they push away the sense like, well, like even when you were saying it's like I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to, and it's like, who said you have to do those things or even have to do it in that way, right? And it's like, okay, why haven't you addressed this big thing that is like blocking you? And it's because they're pushing down their feelings or their emotions and you have to face those feelings and emotions like you're saying. So like I'm really glad you brought that up. But I also kind of was like, I know this wasn't your purpose of saying this, but it did make me think of like that is why mentorship is so powerful. Is because like you like and you weren't even meaning to do this, right? When you were talking about it, because you were just talking about helping that client, but you knew that client's strengths. You knew that client's like things of like, like for me, going in the backyard screaming probably would help, but like the paint aspect of like she is an artist and stuff like that, and being able to see deeper where those women have blind spots, like I think that's such an like big piece of mentorship because a lot of women they're like, okay, why do I need mentorship? And this is coming from me before I was in like mentorship. So like I have a mentor right now. But before it's like, why would I go pay for a mentor when I can just like listen to that person's podcast? When I can just go to that person's Instagram and like hear their beliefs and hear their energy and hear all these things. But you're like, you kind of just explained like the importance of a mentor because she wouldn't have got that same thing from like just the podcast, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, of
being able
course.
to see them in an
Well,
intuitive way.
and another big piece to that is permission.
Yeah.
She probably wouldn't have done that on her own.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Accountability. Yeah.
but to give herself permission to go do that, it's like
Mhm.
it's kind of weird and it's unconventional and it's like, ooh, what are the neighbors going to think? And it's like I'll give you the permission that you don't need but need to hear,
Yeah. And then
and
plus,
just and nudging her along and helping her
yeah.
release something that she's been carrying for so long. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like just helping you see the things that you can't see, or
Mhm.
or knowing what to do with it. Okay, now we see it. What do we do about it? And in this case, we're slinging paint and screaming our face off.
Yeah. And accountability too, because I might like right now would be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that. And then like if I didn't have a mentor or a coach and you're like, I'm not gonna actually go do
Yeah,
it. But like when you
yeah,
have a
because
coach,
because
it's like, okay,
our next call. I'm gonna be like, so
like,
Laura,
yeah,
how was
how
that
did that
activity?
go? Like everything else. So like it's kind of like, okay, it's actually forcing you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
People I feel like a lot of people underestimate the simple things because we've heard it so long. Like come like get out your comfort zone. Like we've heard that since forever ago. Like ever since we started going to school. Like we would see posters and stuff that say like step out of your comfort zone. So I feel like people like underestimate that, but this is science backed of like how stepping out of your comfort zone actually rewires your neurons in your brain. So I feel like it's like important stuff that people overlook or like brush under the rug, but like stepping out of your comfort zone has been scientifically backed to improve your life. So I think that's why like I kind of support like the gutsy thing and the things that you're saying, like to bring it back to what you're talking about, because I'll kind of just like blah 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 talk about everything. So was there anything like pivotal in your life? I know that you explained already like the most gutsy moves, but was there anything like in your past that really made you want to do this? Was it like were you always gutsy as a child, or was it something that you realized like made a big difference because of something that happened?
I think I've always been gutsy, but I was
Oh
not.
man.
But there's a huge asterisk here. I did not grow up in an atmosphere that supported gutsy behavior. So
Okay.
I grew up in a fractured home, with one parent that was missing, one parent that was abusive and physically and mentally. So I was not conditioned to be gutsy. I was not
Yeah.
supported. In fact, using my voice or expressing an opinion or asking for something was rarely safe. It was
Mhm.
usually met with some sort of visceral reaction that was not great. So I learned how to shut up. I learned how to play
Mhm.
small. I learned how to kind of sift back into the background of things. I learned how to put my own needs on the back burner. I learned how to
Mhm.
be a good girl and make sure everything was done just right so I didn't get in trouble. So my gutsiness usually came out to play when I was out to play, literally. So my friends and I would go
Mhm.
on like little adventures in the neighborhood, and I'd lead them
Yeah.
into the woods, and we'd have these, we'd do plays, and you know, our imaginations would run wild. And so I'm still friends with a few of the girls that I grew up with from a very early age, and they're like, "Yeah, you've always just been that leader. Like you've always been that girl." I just didn't know that I was allowed to be. So as soon as I walked back in my house, sh- shut it down,
Back.
right?
Yeah.
Pull it back. So it took me a very long time to decondition the thoughts and
Mhm.
beliefs that I formed as a child. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I had my son that I realized how easy it is to love a child and how much
Mhm.
I wanted for him. I never want to
Yeah.
stifle him. I never want to take him off of his path or put him down for who he is or how expansive he is. And ever since then, I was like, no, there's something more here. And so I just started to, regain my voice. The podcast is 7 years old now. The podcast
Yeah.
helped me find my voice.
Mhm.
530 episodes in, I know my voice.
Yeah.
I know my voice very well. And I pay a lot of tribute to tinkering and messing around with and experimenting on the podcast to find my voice.
Yeah.
The very early episodes, oh, they're like, oh heavens.
Yeah.
But you know something? I leave them up because
Yeah.
without day one, Laura, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Without
Yeah.
day one, Laura, there wouldn't be 530 episodes. Without day one, Laura, I wouldn't be a paid keynote speaker at this point.
Yeah.
So I leave them up because I honor her. Okay, they're
Yeah.
very scripted. They're very robotic. They're very, my voice I got really high and like
Yeah.
we don't have time for that. I naturally have a deep voice. I cuss like a
Yeah.
sailor. I'm very blunt, raw, and incredibly loving. But I had to refine that. I had to reconnect with that. And it was just a lot of experimenting and like, oh, I don't like how that feels. Or, oh, after I'm done recording an episode, I feel really fatigued because I've had my voice this high for the last 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just
Yeah.
like noticing myself. So I think that's why is long story short, I think I've always been gutsy, but I had to relearn how to use it.
Yeah, I love it. And like Gutsy was always your desire, it seems like, because when you were a kid, you did want to kind of be like that version of Gutsy, which kind of shows like Gutsy is different at different phases of your life,
Sure.
right? And can be different for everybody. What is Gutsy to one person? Maybe like if you're watching this, ask yourself that question, like, what is Gutsy to me? What is a Gutsy thing I can do right now that will serve me? Even if it is something like a little bit smaller, like you said. But it seems like Gutsy always was that desire of like, I guess would be your inner child now. And so like I love that you're doing this now because it's like serving your inner child. And I'm like a big inner child person of like going back to that. So I feel like, your inner child is like somehow like you are serving that part. And like I love that also that it's like you always go back to like your son, like when your son was born, because you kind of said something earlier. And like I said, I feel like you're saying a lot that like my brain is like, okay, I could pull like 8 to 10 things from that sentence. But you kind of were like saying like the gutsy part of you was born with his birth. So I kind of like put those two things together. Like it was born from his birth. So I think that's really cool. But I love that like you have that relatability because it's like you're more experienced than me. Like you've been in this longer than me, but like everything you're saying, I'm like, that was so me. And like even though you're more experienced, but like I started with the podcast and same thing. So my favorite podcaster that like really got me started in all of this, like even mindset in general, because I also came from a background of scarcity, like extreme lack. She has like a really soft voice. And like I know I don't have like a deep voice, but she talks like, hey angels, blah blah blah, like and so like I did the same thing. Like whenever I started my podcast, I was like, so everybody, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't know what I said. But like I feel the exact same way. Like when I go back to like even season 1, I'm only in season 2. So like this shows how fast that person can progress though. Like when I go back to season 1, and I left them up as well for the same reasons. Like I'm just like, that was so like not even like it's so much more comfortable. And I guess it's just the takeaway. Like it's so much more better and comfortable just to like be yourself and being like how you are. And like that's what women want, And so like when I hear you say that and tell your story and see you, it makes me feel better. And it makes me feel like, a lot of other women, like I guess I'm trying to point out the impact because a lot of other women are going to be like, they went and did it because you said that. They understand more because you're being open about it. And like you could have went and said, like, oh no, I've always been this great or whatever, lack of better terms. But I feel like that's a very important thing to like talk about that like women don't talk about enough to be like, you technically weren't in your most authentic self, but through the journey, the more authentic you become, the better it is. Like the more fulfilling it is and the more abundance you attract, right? So that's kind of how like I'm seeing it and like what I get from like your story and what you've told me so far. So I have another question for you. And like, this is just like me, like this is like a very casual, like, thing that I do all the time. Like I'm always very casual in myself. But so I was listening to a podcast earlier today, actually, because I'm obsessed with podcasts, which is why I'm talking to you. But and they were talking about like women who really go for like everything. Like, so do you believe like women could have it all? Like we can always expand, we can have it all. You can be a mom and have a business. Like, would you say like you're a firm believer in that?
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So,
We can have it all, but I think that it's really important to define what all is for you.
yeah, that's a good point. Like, what
Because,
is all?
because my all might look very different than your all, might look very different
Yeah.
than the woman that's listening right now. So
Yeah.
I think that just a very, very important key kind of moment in that is make sure you're defining what all means to you, not what it looks like for every other woman.
Yeah, it always needs to come back to you in like what I say, your inner core. Like what is actually your inner core, not like the external things, not what your mom said, not what whoever said, not what whoever's gonna think if you do that, but like your inner core, your inner values. But they brought up this like debate of like, so for women who like for me, like I always want to expand to the next level. Like I want to go like be on every stage possible. And then after that, if someone's like, do you want to do blah blah, I'm like, yes. Like I'm just like, yeah, go bigger, go big. Like so the question was really like, so is there ever enough? Like, is anything ever enough? That was the debate of like, if you keep telling women like go bigger, go bolder, like yes, 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 like are they going to feel like they're always striving for something in a way that's almost like getting toxic in a way? So like what would you say like are your takeaways on that?
Like a moving goalpost is kind of
Yeah,
how
it's
I
like
hear that.
when is anything ever enough then? And some women say no, no, nothing is ever enough because I want to keep going. And then some would say, whoa, that's like not realistic. Whoa, that's like kind of toxic to say like nothing's ever enough. Like, so how do you balance like that drive to like expand and not falling into like that toxic environment?
Well, I think it comes back to a very similar question I just asked a minute ago, and is what is enough to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you can look at some big female entrepreneurs that are just like building these empires. And if you're
Yeah.
comparing yourself to that and you're constantly racing after that or trying to become a version of them, maybe you don't want an empire.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want a slow, steady business that takes care of your needs and gives you the flexibility that you want. Like,
Yeah. So really
like,
like,
like, couldn't that be okay? But
yeah.
you have to disconnect from the idea that it has to look like somebody else's version of success.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's good.
enough needs to be defined by you. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm ambitious. I'm
Yeah.
not done. I got shit to do.
Yeah, that's how I
You
am
know,
too. Like,
but I'm not. I see what some other women are doing online, and I'm like, hats off to you, my girl. But
yeah.
that's not for me. But it's okay for that to be for you. And I think we need to celebrate that with one another more often. But like,
Mhm.
hey, like a small business is a great business. A big
Yeah.
business is a great business. Like a podcast that gets 200 downloads a month, just as impactful as a podcast that gets $20,000 or 20,000
Yeah.
downloads a month. Like, are we chasing or are we striving for something within ourselves?
Right. And I guess that's the balance is like chasing versus expanding.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like, even for me, it's like I have to catch myself in that because I am ambitious. I am the kind of person that's like, yeah, I want to keep going up above. Like, I don't like someone could say, do you want to fly somewhere tomorrow to go on a assignment? Like, yeah, I'd be like packing my bags. So I guess like, that was like a very interesting take for me. And like for me, I was kind of thinking like it's really about like, yes, expanding. So here's the misconception that I see. And like I would love to hear like what your thoughts are because we basically almost have the same brain. But in different like brands. But so for me, I kind of saw it as like we need to take away this misconception of like the fact that you want to expand. For those women who do want to expand, they are the ones right now being like, yeah, it's never enough. It doesn't mean that like you're unhappy now. You know what I mean? Like I can want to expand and say like this is like I want to expand, but I'm not saying what I have now is not enough. Like I'm very happy with my home now. I'm very happy with my clients now. I'm very happy with my brand now. So me wanting to expand is not saying like I'm not happy now. Both things can be true that I can be happy now and still want to expand. So that's kind of was like my initial thoughts on it of like that is a misconception in itself to say like if you are saying it's not enough, you're unhappy. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like what are
I,
your
yeah.
takeaways?
Totally. Like I love all the things about my life and my business right now. And
Yeah,
yet I also know that there's something more. Like
right.
our home, for instance, not even business related. I love our home. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's safe. It's warm. It's taken really good care of us for a decade. And I also know that my husband and I have a goal to build a home on land.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a good
It
example.
doesn't mean that I don't love our home now. It doesn't mean that I'm dissatisfied with it. I just know that
Mhm.
there's a different version of what
Mhm.
forever home looks like. And
Yeah.
so
And like,
I'm not putting it down. I'm not making it mean anything, but like that only I can know that. My husband and I. Only us.
yeah.
We're the only ones that can know that. And it's like, do we want to build a bigger house to have like a bigger this and a bigger that because we're like chasing, because we're going after, because we're trying to put on a front or an image or something? And it's like, no,
Right.
I don't even want a bigger house. The
Yeah.
size is not what we're looking for. It's just the style and the layout and the land and the
Yeah.
values that we have in our life. So it's like, again, you have to come back to, why am I doing this? Why do
Yeah.
I want more? And if it's rooted
Mhm.
in something that's important to you, then go for it. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's
that's
so
another thing.
true.
We have to change the narrative around women that
Yeah.
want more. It's
That's
okay.
that's how kind of I went with it too. It was like what you just said, change the narrative of women who want more. And it's like it's more about the feeling that you're gonna have. It's more about the fulfillment, like those inner things that's important to you. So to me, it's like for people, and I'm sure you've seen this before, dealt with this, where they're like, so like, is that not good enough? It's like, you want more than that? And it's like taking away the shame of like women saying like, yeah, I would want more. Like, that's not like everyone, like a lot of people want to put shame on women for saying like, I love money, I like money, I want more. And I'm like, I'm more about like releasing the shame of saying you want more.
Yeah.
And like seeing that you can want more and still like everything else here. Like
Yeah.
you have a friend right now. Does that mean like you don't want more friends?
Right.
Would anyone care if you said you want more friends? Would they go, well, you have 3 friends over there. What's wrong with your 3 friends over there? You know, like they wouldn't say that probably. Well, most people wouldn't. So like it's just kind of like changing the mentality around it. So that's kind of like what I was thinking as well, as far as like removing the shame. Like
Yeah.
where's the shame coming from? Like, do you see that in a lot of clients of where like they actually really like fear is number one for me, is like, why don't people make more gutsy moves? Fear. And then the second one would be shame. So like where does this shame come from? And like what can women do about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the shame can come from a lot of different pieces, right? It depends on your story, it depends on your background, it depends on your desires. But I think the important thing to know and remember here is that, whatever happened doesn't have to stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. So while it might be deeply ingrained, you don't have to continue to carry that shame, especially if it's somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you feeling shameful about wanting more? What is the root cause of that? If we get back down to basics and we kind of, pull it back down, where did that originate from? What did somebody say to you? What was the situation that you were in? What was the experience that you were going through that embedded that shame into you? And what are we going to rewrite? What's the new story we're going to tell and share? First, we have to feel the shame to release it. It's an emotion. It gets stored into the fibers of our being. So we have to be willing to go back to the root. We have to be willing to express the emotions that come up and around it. And we have to be willing to choose a new story. And
Yeah.
it's okay for me to want more, period.
Yeah.
I love my life and I want more, period. Like you can't control, you can't control what everyone else is going to say and think about the things that you desire, because it's not for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's their projected fear. It's their projected confusion, or, well, how are you going to do that? And what are you going to do about this? And what is that person going to say? And, what does your husband say? Or what does your wife say? And it's like, excuse me, ma'am, sir, person. That's not why we're talking about this. Like, that's not for me. That's for you. And so even just recognizing in those types of conversations, like returning that energy, I'm not carrying that around. I'm not going to carry that around with me.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's something that's coming up that I really feel called to share. Sometimes the gutsy move is saying, this is enough. That I don't have to keep going. I don't have to push. I don't have to prove. I don't have to create a 6-figure this or a 7-figure that. I don't have to have this to be successful. Like sometimes like the gutsy move is saying like, I'm actually pretty good.
Yeah,
so,
that is a really good point.
It's not, that's not shaming or blaming if you want more, but if you don't and you feel like you're striving for something, you're pushing, you're forcing, you're chasing after something, the gutsy move here is saying, I'm actually pretty good. I don't need to do any of those things to prove myself.
Yeah, like even if it's like just for now or for forever. So it really does come back. I think like the big message like that I got from this whole conversation, like if I could take away anything, is like what you keep saying is like it's individual to the soul. It's about like listening to your inner being of like, because that could be like, I'm really glad you said that, because I would have never thought to say that. And it's like almost like something I needed to hear too, because like being very ambitious women, like sometimes we do need to be like, this is good. Like, because you don't want to be like overcompensating, like over like doing these things, because that is probably coming from like a complex, you know? or what I would call a complex. So like, yeah, it really does come down to, I feel like people would need to journal this out. Like, I feel like we should attach some journal prompts to the episode because it really does come down to like the individual person, like you're saying. So we're going to be wrapping up soon because like we've been talking for a while, but I guess like that was my main takeaway. Do you want to share like a main takeaway that you feel like is really like strong within this conversation that like if you could kind of tell people like just like if like you had to just share like just one main thing, like what do you think it would be that would really like show the importance of making bold, gutsy moves?
I think the last thing that I want to share here is that you're allowed to want what you want. And whether that's
Mhm.
more, whether that's less, maybe it's something different, maybe it's something new, you know? Are you wanting to start a new business? Are you wanting to change your jobs? Are you wanting to change something in or about your relationship? Are you wanting to adjust something in your health? Gutsy moves is not about flipping the table over and burning it all down. Every once in a while it is. We
But
have
you
the
would know if it was.
being gutsy is really about owning yourself,
Yeah.
trusting yourself, hearing yourself, and then giving yourself permission to do that thing. And whatever that
Mhm.
thing is, you're allowed to want what you want. As long as
Yeah.
you're not harming yourself and others, go for it.
Yeah.
You're settling doesn't look good on anybody. And
I've never heard that.
I cannot sleep at night knowing that brilliant women are settling, and it's why I do the work that I do, to get them
Yeah.
out of that space of spinning and stuckness and overcomplicating and overthinking things and comparing and all that. Friend, settling does not look good on anybody. You
Yeah.
thrive, you are your best when you give yourself permission to go after it. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it with Laura or I love that name. But yeah, so like for me it's like to, elaborate on what you've already said. Like this is all Laura's brain. Well, my name is Laura too, but like this is Laura's brain. Um it's really just like you already know. Like if you stop and like you will feel it within you. So like I feel like even like what you're doing right now, saying maybe it's this, maybe it's that, it's like you knew when she said the thing like that was touching you. So it's really like getting this message across of like you already know within you. So now what do you need to do about it, right? And
Yeah.
like I said, we're gonna leave all of your links if they do want to like, go look at your program. So like I checked out your site and I kid you not, I was like, so the caseworker or person that I have for like this show, she like does websites and stuff and like because I am like a little bit more new than you, like I looked at your site and I like literally sent your site and I was like, this is kind of like site goals. I was
Oh,
like, the way
thank
she
you.
has everything laid out because she straight up told me my site was not good, and I was like, "You're right, it's not." But like, because I'm just used to like talking to people, working with people, and I'm the kind of person like, yeah, once I talk to you and work with you, then like that's the evidence. Like I'm not like a branding person, so like I sent her an email being like, if you could do something similar to this, like not take her words, of course, but like it's set up so good. So like we definitely want to drop that because you have a lot of things going on for a lot of different people, right? And yeah, other than that, like we'll keep in touch. And it was so good hearing like all of your takeaways. And I feel like everything like yeah, y'all have to follow her because everything she said is like so much deeper. And like I know that like you can help guide women to like going even like more into those layers, that I can definitely see how like their lives will be impacted from it, like propelled forward. So like I can tell just because like I've talked to a lot of people. But yeah, like thank you so much for joining the show and we can't wait to hear whatever updates you have coming up. And we'll let y'all off, like we'll leave y'all with our quick ending message, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, are you looking for expansion without the overwhelm? It seems like everywhere we look, another program is popping up. That's why I created Embodied Revolution Insiders Community, where you can get access to multiple of the most recent courses, special lives, wealth consciousness expansions, and become part of a community of women changing the industry by making bolder moves and building generational wealth. Instead of getting bits and pieces of limited time specials, this is a home for your most fulfilling life. Can't wait to see you inside.